Obviously, their neighbours Manchester United. Their transfer window, again, it was interesting. They've signed Fred, is the major transfer. They signed Diego Dalot from Porto, and obviously Lee Grant's the third choice goalkeeper. But all the talk has got to be on. They've so many centre back targets, and none of them have come in, and that's got to be looked at as a failure, surely, by Manchester United.
I mean, the whole window has been horrendous. How the board haven't planned ahead and seen from the performances last year that the defence needs bolstering, I have no idea. The FA Cup final, the defence fielded was all players signed by Alex Ferguson, and he left 5 years ago. How has a club failed to plan ahead that badly? It blows my mind.
I do think it is amazing that they haven't been able to sort out a centre back this window.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people hide behind the fact that United had the second best defensive record last year, but I mean that was down to David De Gea. It's just that simple. Because if you look at the shots, like expected goals from shots faced, that kind of stat, they're well up there for facing the most. And it's just De Gea gets them out of jail every time.
Yeah. I could understand sort of, obviously with the World Cup being, and I could sort of understand maybe wait until after it's finished, but I mean, it finished, 3 weeks ago now? Mm-hmm. So that gives you 3-4 weeks to sort of sit down and evaluate the options you've got and put up a bid in for the one that you want, but it just seems like nothing's happened. It's all purely just speculation. I mean, to rush around trying to sign Diego Godin to do, who's 32. Yeah. Fair enough, he is a world-class centre-back. You could argue even the best in the world. But it's just a complete lack of organisation, it just seems, at the moment at Man United.
Yeah, I mean, Ed Woodward's a very good guy commercially, but in transfers his record's awful. He gets messed around by agents. You saw it with Godin this window. It's happened with Ramos. He's failed to get his targets to previous managers, and he's failed to get them to Mourinho. It's criminal, really, how United finished 19 points behind City and have brought in one first-team player to try and change that.
Yeah, I feel like you could have maybe gone for the last striker as well. Maybe back up to Lukaku. Because I was halfway through the season, he went off a bit. So maybe he was getting a bit tired, and then he's had like a full World Cup pretty much as well.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be said. I mean, bringing in Sanchez will help that. Sanchez had his first summer off in about a decade this summer, and in pre-season he's looked really, really sharp. And like the player that tore it up for Arsenal.
Yeah.
And that's a viable option down the middle. If you want to rest Lukaku here and there, and Martial and Rashford obviously have stayed around, can do the job. It's just about managing the squad better, I think. Guys like Lukaku and Matic played way too many games last year.
Yeah.
And Valencia are young.
You mentioned about Ed Woodward and saying he got messed around. Do you think maybe with Toby Alderweireld, I would have seen some of the prices quoted for someone who's 29 and has had a few injury problems in the last few years? Do you think maybe it was the right decision to not pursue him at a price of 60 to 70 million?
I don't think a club which is the richest in the world, Manchester United, can cop out of a transfer because they won't pay the money. And that's pretty scandalous, especially when you consider the 160 odd million spent on Pogba and Lukaku. Yes, they're younger players with all the talent, but centre-back's a problem area. Still got Smalling and Jones occupying the first-team slots. It's appalling. I mean, and if you're not going to go for Alderweireld because he's 29 and has a bad injury record, why would you not go and buy Maguire for the same kind of money?
I think Alderweireld would have been perfect for United. I think with the likes of Lindelof coming through, I mean, we've seen this season even the likes of Davinson Sanchez playing next to Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen. We've seen how much of an impact that's had on his growth. Do you think maybe an older head would have helped Man United's long-term prospects?
It's what Man United are absolutely crying out for. The best centre-backs of the club are Bailly and Lindelof. And they're young and they need to play with someone who's solid, assured, and a leader at the back. And obviously the experienced defenders at United are Chris Smalling and Phil Jones, who are, well, I mean, they'll just they'll make you nervous just by the sight of them. The amount of mistakes they make over the years, it's awful how they're still first-team players. And Phil Jones went to the World Cup. Unbelievable.
I think that's one clear difference between City and United, though. Like, City have a Vincent Kompany, whereas, like you just said, United don't have that leader on the pitch who's going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and make something happen.
Yeah, well, since Vidic and Ferdinand left, there's been a shortage of leaders, really. I mean, now more than ever, Antonio Valencia is the captain, and you barely hear the guy speak a word of English.
I was just about to say, who is the captain now, because I know Carrick retired.
Yeah, it's Valencia now. I mean, I personally have given it to a guy like De Gea.
Yeah, I would have said
experienced head. And I mean, if Pogba were carried on from the first half of the last season, where he was captain at one point, and he could have been a captain because he's shown in the World Cup he's a leader. The same for Lukaku. It baffles me how it's on Valencia.
Do you think that maybe there is more leaders in that United squad than you're giving credit to? And do you think maybe the leaders aren't necessarily your stereotypical Roy the Rover stuff, so sort of Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, sort of? Do you think that's the sort of leader you're crying out for? Or do you think there's generally
I think it needs to be... I mean, there's definitely leaders. It just needs to be in the defence. There's not a commanding player in the defence. Because when you line up a defence, there's Chris Smalling, who's awful, or Phil Jones, who's awful, or Bailly and Lindelof, who are young and obviously not naturally speak English, so they can't command the whole team with their voices at the back, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Bailly and Lindelof, in fact, them two are United's best centre-halves, and they're still, not so much Bailly, but Lindelof's still a very raw prospect, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's certainly, you could definitely see the holes in that United squad.
Yeah, and especially Bailly's been pretty injury prone since he arrived as well. Smalling and Jones have been injury prone for 7 years. And yeah, there's still no new centre back. It's not just the centre back either. I mean, fullbacks, Valencia and Young are both 33. And they've both seemingly lost the ability to attack properly. It just made United style to play really predictable and limited their attacking options. And even on the right wing, there's not a natural right winger they've got either.
Partially put a bit of the blame on Mourinho for that, though, not mixing it up a bit, being a bit predictable, 10 men behind the ball, long ball to Lukaku, who, by the way, was feeding off scraps for the whole of last season.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult because when you try and utilise fullbacks, they cut inside and they make everything really narrow and predictable. It's more of a pragmatic style, so when he needs to go to the long ball, he uses it. Against Liverpool, Lukaku dominated Lovren. It's more about, I don't think there's a trust in the defence to fully unleash the attack, if you see what I'm saying. Obviously he wants his attackers to defend so his defence doesn't get caught out. But if you unleash those attacking players, then I think they're a match for anyone.
I think Aaron said it earlier, if you did that, it would be sort of a carbon copy of what Liverpool were like last season.
Yeah, because
so vulnerable at the back.
Their defence was so bad they didn't really have a choice but to let their attackers go because they didn't really make a difference.
That's what we did back in the Entertainers when they won the league. We had like an awful defence, literally just said like every team, right, we'll just try and outscore you.
Yeah.
Because we just couldn't defend. It nearly worked.
Yeah, I think the defenders are pretty bad. They're not so bad that like you say like they can't defend. But there definitely needs to be more
liability.
Yeah, definitely needs to be more trust placed in the attackers to go and do their own thing because there's world class quality there.
You mentioned about the fullback hours, but United have signed that. Is it Diego
Dalot? Yeah.
Dalot, yeah. Do you think he's maybe one for the future? Or
yeah, he's definitely one for the future. The issue is he had surgery in his knee in April as well, so he won't be ready for another couple of months, I think. I know that he's not played. I know that he's probably not played more than 10 senior games. He's a very exciting prospect. Looks very good going forward, but he's going to need time to settle in, adjust.
So you mentioned like if Dalot he won't be ready for this season, and Antonio Valencia's agent, surely you'd have to question why the likes of Timothy Fosu-Mensah have gone out on loan to Fulham. I mean, surely with someone like Valencia, 33, surely
And Valencia's injured at the moment as well. He pulled
surely
pulled him
Fossey
off
Mensah would be
pre-season.
a good fit for United, surely, and this
Yeah,
would be
I-
his time to step up.
I absolutely don't know why he's going out on loan today. He's such a versatile option. He can play all the way across the back in midfield. It's really baffling that he's left today. And that means the guy like Darmian, who's pretty poor, let's be honest, has to stay now because we're short on options.
Where are you sort of thinking or hoping that United are going to finish then, Ryan, as a fan yourself? Obviously, we've sort of, even with the best win in the world, we can't really see them toppling Manchester City this season. So it's a case of just doing better than last year, maybe grabbing a trophy?
A trophy's always important. I mean, going for a cup is a priority, but I think there's definitely a chance that we can still win the league because there's so much quality in the attack. Sanchez is fresh. Lukaku showed he's brilliant. Pogba's just won the World Cup. Lingard, Rashford, Martial, they're all really good players. And David De Gea can almost dig that defence out of any problem they create for him. And you see they were closer than anyone to City last year. And the options in midfield are good as well. Fred, Pereira's come back from loan. He looks really good. It's all about whether that system clicks. You saw at the end of last year when Sanchez came in, there was not a real system. It was all pragmatic football every game. Just try and get through this game and this game and this game. If they develop a real system, I think they can challenge for the league. But realistically, I don't think the defence is good enough.
Do you think the pragmatism's down to the ability of the squad, or do you think that's just down to Jose Mourinho? And do you think maybe someone else, like a different sort of manager, if he come in with that squad, do you think you'd see an upturn in results? Like, do you think the gap between you and City would be closed at all, or do you think it runs deeper than Jose Mourinho?
It's a combination of the two. I think Jose, well, with any squad, will go pragmatic in certain games where he needs to shut down certain opponents. But he needs to be more ruthless against the smaller teams. He gives too much respect to smaller teams and doesn't unleash the attacker. If you see City and Liverpool against the smaller teams, they go 5 and 6-0. You won't see that at United. It's in the big games last year. United were brilliant and they had a great record. They beat everyone. Every one of the top 6 at least once.
From a neutral's perspective, watching United, it does seem like they're still in first gear. Like they haven't. It feels like there's shackles holding back the attacking players. Like you say, someone really does need to unleash it. I think the sooner they're unleashed, I think they'll definitely be a threat to Man City. But the question is if Jose Mourinho is willing to swallow a bit of pride and a bit of pragmatism and just play more expansive football.
That's it. Yeah, it's just ifs and buts. We don't know. Guess we'll see when all the players come back fit from the World Cup. So I don't think Pogba, Lukaku, Lingard, those kind of players are going to start tomorrow night. I mean, it just depends.
Do Jose Mourinho's comments this pre-season worry you at all? Do you think his mindset is totally correct at the moment?
I think Jose Mourinho works best when he's creating siege mentality for himself, where us against the world kind of thing. So, I mean, his comments don't really worry me that much. Obviously, pre-season it was mostly money. He doesn't have his players with him. I mean, that's fair enough. Obviously, you can't do anything about it, but I think he's right to criticise the board as well for not bringing players in for him. I think he did as much as he could have done with that squad last year, but going against that kind of team from City. I mean,
I think you could argue, like in obviously the Champions League when he got beat off Sevilla.
yeah, that was a low point in the season. That was a low point in the season. I think that's when he and Pogba were having the issues. Obviously, they left Pogba out as the starting line for both games, I think, and that was the low point of the season. That's where he gave them far too much respect, and that's the point where you can criticise Mourinho last year, for sure.
So what would be? Luke mentioned it, the fact that you went out to the Sevilla in the Champions League, very underwhelming campaign considering such an easy group for a Champions League. What would quantify a successful season at at Man United this season for you?
So I think for Man United this season, they probably need to win a trophy, one of the cups. I would place a big priority on. And then Champions League, obviously, it depends on your group. Because if you get, like Tottenham say, if you're in a group with Real Madrid and then get Juventus in the last 16, it's not an absolute travesty to get knocked out there. And there it's all about context. I think it's also just about putting up a better challenge for the title. Because although they were best of the rest last year, it wasn't a good title challenge. It was done by December, you know?
You say that you'd take Champions League football. What? So if, say, an FA Cup and fourth or third place, would that quantify a successful season, or
I think
does
that's...
it have to be maintaining the second?
That's
barrier?
like an okay season. It's not a great season. If it was going to be... If you're not going to win the league, if you're not going to win the league, you've got to finish a second, give them a fight, and then try and win a trophy as well.
Do you not think that was down to how good City were more than how poor you were?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. The points tally we got was good enough to put up a good challenge for the league, pretty 9 times out of 10. City made us and made everyone else look horrendous by comparison last year.
I think it's a mixture of both. You've seen some of the results that Man United have had. You look at the likes of Burnley at home, Brighton away. Them sort of results where, on paper, especially like you mentioned, with the horsepower in that attack, you'd think that surely that's not the sort of game you'd slip up in. Even if it is your second string side, they should be good enough to win those sorts of games.
Yeah, they kind of went through patches last year of poor results. So there was steamrolling the league, and then Pogba got injured, and that derailed the momentum a lot and dropped a lot of points in that period. And then just as he came back against Arsenal, you remember he was man of the match. He got sent off unjustly in that game, and then he missed the derby, and then there was kind of a run of draws against Southampton and Leicester and Burnley where it just didn't go right. It's all about a momentum thing. And in the new year, the momentum never really came back properly. You see wins against, like the win against Liverpool. 3 days later, you went out without the Champions League against Sevilla.